With Chainsaw Man Chapter 178, appropriately titled Gun Goddess, Fujimoto continues to build on that wild cliffhanger from the last chapter where we saw the Statue of Liberty cracking, and if you were of the belief that the Statue of Liberty, that big beautiful symbolism for freedom, was being revealed as a devil with a gun, you, my friends, you are a great prognosticator, because we open up this chapter with the remains of the Statue of Liberty falling into the water, and the people in New Jersey and New York's border just happen to have their fingers pointing up in the air, unlike the people of Texas who lost all their fingers in the last chapter. And we get this gorgeous panel of the devil that is holding the sniper rifle that appears to be coming out of the chest close to the heart. And this is every bit as bold as it is heartbreaking, but this dark moment was needed to set up that major plot twist that we had in this chapter. As Yoru points and aims the gun with the devil following her movements, we see her utter the words bang yet again, and we get an enormous display of power that is shown here, all the way from Ellis Island, which is roughly on the border of New York and New Jersey. The bullet fired from the sniper rifle of this devil travels within seconds across the world and strikes Pochita with a blast so powerful that surrounding buildings are destroyed on impact. But here's the scariest part. That shot traveled roughly 6,700 miles, which is the rough distance from Ellis Island in the United States all the way over to Japan. Just Japan's mainland, not like Tokyo or anything like that. Because again, America has the most guns out of any country in the world. So it is poetic that a powerful gun like that exists in America. Potentially controversial decision by Fujimoto, but it's definitely one that narratively works when you add in that perspective. Entire buildings are destroyed by the blast, and there's massive amounts of damage being unleashed, and this is even more scary when you realize this is potentially comparable in the scale in terms of the destructive force we saw that the gun devil did in part 1. Obviously not Aki, who was the gun fiend, because Aki as the gun fiend had nowhere near this level of power. Again, not so much the mass casualties where the gun devil fired off all those multiple shots that killed millions within seconds, but here with only one shot we see a horrific display of power, and that is enough that it freaks out Mitaka as she sees the damage done with just that one blast. And we start seeing the moment we've been waiting on, the moment where Mitaka realizes how deep of a mess she's gotten into by sharing a body with Yoru. While Yoru is laughing at the damage and the death caused by the attack, Mitaka is freaking out and she's sweating cold bullets because she realizes that Yoru is a devil and admits that she forgot all about that. That's something that the story it has been alluding to, where it became clear that the dramatic irony was in effect, where we as the audience knew that Yoru was a devil who couldn't be trusted, since devils in their truest nature, they hate humans. Yet Mitaka appeared to be bonding with Yoru for the longest time. They fought, they had spats, but it was cruelly being painted like it's a sibling relationship, even though we as the audience were slowly seeing seeds being planted to build towards this moment, which showed Yoru at the end of the day was still a slave to her nature as a devil, and Mitaka was missing it this entire time. Mitaka's face is the look of someone who knows that she's gone too far and she can't turn back, and it's another glaring sign that this might be the story that doesn't end too well for Mitaka, unlike Denji, who got lucky by having Pochita and the contract that they had being one that was rather favorable to Denji. Speaking of Pochita, we see that he's been blown apart by that one blast to such an extent that only his torso and his head remain. Everything else was destroyed by one blast, which is absolutely scary. It makes you wonder what several blasts could have done, and by extension makes you look at Yoru and realize that for as powerful she's become, she still hasn't reached the full power yet, because devils like the nuclear weapons devil and the World War devil, they haven't even been coughed up by Chainsaw Man yet. So her power level is still being placed on a sliding scale, which is absolutely wild. It's also worth noting that all this death, the bullet that is traveling through so many buildings between America and Japan, likely racked up deaths, and we're seeing the building towards the eventual return of the Death Devil, the big villain that Fami has seemingly been attempting to power Yoru up in order to fight. This leads us to the return of the aging devil, and this moment it should make your heart sink as you realize exactly what this means. As the aging devil tells Pochita to eat its limbs while feeding its own blood to him to begin the process of healing him, it tells us that every single bite that is taken, children will die, and We end off the chapter with children being rounded up, just as the Japanese Prime Minister a few chapters ago gave Fumiko the permission to begin that operation to fulfill their contract with the aging devil, who is taking advantage of the situation in order to force Pochita into a position where he seemingly has to eat him, and that's the craziest part. The deaths there seemingly continuing to pile up and don't look like they're gonna stop, and with the children now being potentially used for death, young lives being cut short, you have to believe that this by extension is gonna make the Death Devil even stronger wherever she is off screen currently. This chapter serves as an effective beast of two natures that continues to build on the symbolism of the duality of Mitaka and Yoru. When we first meet Mitaka, she was cold, snarky, detached, and she thought that she was about to die. And when that happened, she made the deal with Yoru to save her life. And ever since then, through meeting people like Yuko, we saw Mitaka slowly rediscover what it means to be human and get back in touch with her own humanity. On the other hand, when we see Yoru at the start, she's weak as hell. While she does bully Mitaka, she's a lot more suppressed compared to where she is now in terms of her nature. She's gotten more comfortable. As Yoru has regained more of her power, she's gotten more aggressive in the way that Fujimoto highlights this and how he shows Mitaka and Yoru once again switching control. This time with Mitaka so shocked that she's regained control, and we see Yoru laughing, which is harder when you realize Yoru shares a body with her and knows her feelings, and she's still laughing nonetheless. This is even more fitting when you compare the relationship of Yoru and Mitaka with that of Denji and Makima, where Mitaka had a similar realization as Denji did when he saw that Makima was using him and he was too far down the road to reverse course. This might be jumping the gun, but just off what we've seen, I think we might need to start the conversation of if Yoru in this powered up form is stronger than Makima at the end of part 1, which I'm inclined to say yes. I love Makima's character, but I'm inclined to say yes, but I'm hesitating to do so because we did see Pochita rip off Yoru's arm prior to this before she powered up, and Pochita did appear to be off guard because as he turned around, the bullet was getting ready to hit him. But you can make the argument, if he had the time to turn around, he had the time to avoid the attack too. It's tricky, but this does massively power Yoru up, and it officially takes Yoru off of fraud watch because this is impressive from a power scaling perspective, but this by extension also upscales Pochita, who hasn't fought Yoru seriously, and we know that in their peaks, the 4 horsewomen, they jump Pochita regularly. So this is another level of power that we haven't seen with both parties that have been shown yet, which only is raising the expectations of the Death Devil that much higher. Because when you're seeing all this crazy shit that you're seeing out of Yoru right now, where she's firing off these long range blasts like this, and we know that she's not even at full power right now, and we know that Pochita isn't even going bloodlusted, it's one of those things where the Death Devil has some really ginormous shoes to fill in terms of the expectations we're gonna have. Thankfully, Chainsman isn't on break next week, so we don't have to wait too long to see how this story plays out. My chapter question for you guys is gonna be between Yoru currently and Makima at the end of part 1. Who do you think was stronger?